52 at this point. I haven't checked,
It's
but
been
let's
a
call it
minute
that.
though,
It's been a minute. Look, the holidays have come and gone. This hot stove is starting to finally cool off for kind of everyone at
or
this
maybe
point,
warm up,
or maybe
whichever
warm
way
up
which
depending
way you want
depending
to look
on.
at it.
I mean, ask Cody Bellinger and the Yankees. I
Well,
know what
you know
that's.
what? Ask all the former Astros that are on the
Right.
market.
Ask Kyle Tucker, ask Framber Valdez,
That's right.
ask Alex Bregman. You're right.
That's
Like
right.
there's
Yeah.
a lot of I it's interesting we're seeing all this, right? And happy new year to everybody. It is interesting to me though that we're seeing this. I wonder if some of it is there hesitation by some teams because we are coming up on labor agreement at the
Mhm.
end of this year, which almost certainly will lead to some kind of work stoppage. I wonder if there's some
Which we haven't
hesitation by
had
teams.
since, oh gosh, the first time we did not have a work stoppage was in '01 or '02.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was '01. Then that was the very first time we had not have a work stoppage, and we haven't had a work stoppage since.
right.
I am still I like to try to be the positive role model here, and say that I still think that cooler heads will prevail. Unfortunately, nothing is going to get done till the very last minute because
Yeah, that's how it always is.
that's how the world works. But first, I want to say, everyone, I hope everyone had a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy
Yes.
New Year, happy and safe. I hope everybody got through it. Yeah, we haven't been on very much, or we haven't been on in a while, and
Hmm.
a big portion reason for that is, well, there hasn't been a whole lot going on,
No,
so
it's been very quiet.
it's
It's
been
been very
quiet.
quiet.
Now, you said, do you think it's happening because of the potential of the
Yeah.
work stoppage? I think there may be a little bit to that, but I have a little bit more cynical view on
Oh,
this is something that has been going on for probably pretty close to the last 10 years. Major League Baseball has finally got their stuff together. Okay. They know that salaries keep going up and keep going up. And, what does an employer try and do? Well, you try to suppress those salaries.
right.
And the number one way they can do that in free agency is don't sign the majority of the people until after the new year. This is not
Mm,
anything new. There are a few signings. I think that, if there's somebody you really want out there, Dylan Cease, then you go out and you do what you got to do. Okay. But as far as the majority of the free agent class, and people don't understand it, there's not, you know, 50 people that are free agent. There are hundreds of
well,
players
that's
that
for
are
yeah.
free agents. And as lucrative as free agency is for the top of the class, it can be a brutal, costly process for the rest of the
Right.
class.
Right.
You're going to see once spring training comes around, you're going to see a boatload of minor league invites, of minor league contracts, stuff like
Right.
that, taking huge salary cuts, just trying to get onto some kind of team playing for a one of these organizations. So um, this is by design. You're trying to suppress salaries, get closer to spring training.
Yeah.
People want to know where they're going. Families want to know. Friends want to know. So what do? Push it as close to spring training as you possibly can.
Yeah, it definitely puts a lot more pressure on the players to have to deal with their situation. It's fine. It is what it. I mean, the Astros. Listen, for all of our concerns over the Astros, lack of busyness. I
Hmm.
think the point that you made, and I think this is relevant for the Astros is in the case of the Astros, they really didn't have a choice, but they had to go find pitching. Like there
Sure.
was no way that they could get deep into the late winter months without knowing what their rotation was going to be because they just didn't have enough people. And
Sure.
so that was part of the, I think, calculus for them for making the trade for Mike Burrows and then ultimately signing Tatsuya Mi, which we'll talk about. Um, is that they needed to get into that sooner rather than later
Yeah.
because they knew that there were going to be holes there.
But
The
look at
rest of
look
what
at
the
where they went though. They went through the
right,
trade market. They didn't go to the
yes,
top of the free agent market. You know that
right,
Jim
they went through
Crane's not going to
Japan,
go hundreds of millions
sure,
of dollars for 7 or 8 years. He's just not going to do that. He hasn't
nope,
done it. The only long-term contract he has paid to a pitcher would be Lance McCullers Jr., and we know
correct,
how that has worked out.
Yep.
He's just
I'm
not going to
wearing
do
his
it.
hat. Bury me
Yeah,
in the
there,
H, but
there you
like,
go.
I
But
mean,
but that's just not how he's going to go about for that's his business model, and that's up to
yeah.
him. He's the owner. He gets to make that model. But yeah, and then you end up going to Japan. Now, are there question marks when there comes to MI? Of course there are. And, you
Mhm.
don't know what the cultural differences are going to be. We've seen him. He's already um, been out into the public.
Oh, yeah.
He's been to a Texans game. He's been to
A
a
Rockets
Rockets
game.
game. They both won. We saw him delve into the English language
Mhm.
in his first press conference,
Oh, dude,
which
he's got some sass.
he's got.
Let's he's got some
He's got
attitude.
some cojones to him. He's got some
Definitely.
attitude. He's got some
I love it.
personality. And listen,
Yes.
I've played with many Japanese players that have come over. Um, some of them are very good. Some of them were. It took them a little while. Kaz Matsui is the one that comes to mind. I was
Mhm.
with the Mets when he came over from Japan. He was supposed to be a big power hitter. He wasn't anywhere close to a power hitter. He was also completely overwhelmed by the city of New York.
Yeah.
Um, and it wasn't until he got a few years here in the states and went to one of the smaller markets, Colorado.
Mhm.
Had some good time, had some good at bats in Colorado. Played here in Houston a little bit.
Mhm.
He was not one of those big market type players, and so those are some of the issues that you look at. The benefit that Amai has is he's coming to Houston, which is a very soft media market.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to have to learn how to eat Mexican food because it is a staple here. And from everything we've seen from him, I think he's going to be fine. He's going to be able to handle the transition. The one
Mhm.
question about him is he's had one really good year. That was his last year in Japan.
Mhm.
His walk rate did go way down, but is
Mhm.
that going to continue? And that's one of the things we have seen from specifically Japanese pitchers coming out. They come over throwing 7, 8, 9 pitches. They can't throw many of them for strikes. So
Right.
he is a little bit different because you're not talking about a guy coming over and his main out pitch is a split finger fastball. It's not. His is a slider. Throws
Right.
a lot of
A backward
sliders.
slider at
Sometimes
that.
they call it
Yeah.
the gyro ball, but
Yeah.
the gyro ball is actually a changeup. This is not a changeup.
Mhm.
He throws a backup slider, a slider that goes straight down. Sometimes it looks like it goes the opposite direction,
Mhm.
but that is his main pitch. So, and here in the States, there's a lot of players, a lot of pitchers that throw sliders. And so we'll just have to see how the league reacts
Yeah.
to it.
I'm gonna be real interested. Let's talk about Amaya a little bit because I'm sort of setting aside, yeah, personality wise, I think he's gonna fit in fine. I don't think the spotlight's too big for him. He clearly, if anybody have seen the video of him doing the sword imitation
Yeah.
against, I mean that was, it's pretty good.
Yep.
He definitely
That was
has some.
specifically to one player. He was
Yes,
pitching against Trevor Bauer.
exactly. So he's got personality. So I appreciate
Yeah.
that. And I appreciate
You
his
remember
like not
back in the
wanting.
day when Nolan Ryan did the scream like
Yes,
the Mad Hungarian
exactly. There's a
Al
lot. Yeah,
Ravasti. Yeah.
exactly. So there. I appreciate the gamesmanship and all that, but I think interesting. I did a kind of a little bit of a deep dive into his pitching. Read a few things up on it,
Mhm.
and it does appear to me that the really he has three pitches and then variations on those three. He's got a
Right.
four seam fastball which can touch 98, 99 at
Yeah.
its highest peak, but it averages around 93. He's got the sort of kind of interesting slider that occasionally backdoors. And then you've got this, and then he has the multiple variations of a changeup, including my favorite new changeup, the Vulcan changeup,
Yes.
which,
I've
which I
known one
just,
player
it's,
that threw the Vulcan. One
did you
player.
really?
Mhm.
It's just, as soon as I saw it, I'm like,
Hard pitch
I'm,
to throw.
I'm,
And
I'm
what we're talking
100% in.
about is
Yeah. Live long
this
and prosper.
that's how you throw it.
That is
And it is
insane.
incredibly uncomfortable in my hand right now. There is no way I could ever throw it.
It's
Now,
so
I did throw a regular split, but
right.
these 2 fingers?
Those 2 fingers are not meant to divide like that.
No,
Like, you feel like you
no.
almost gotta cut the webbing in between just
That's
to get
right.
them to spread
That's
apart
right.
far enough. Yeah, so he's got an interesting assortment of pitches. Obviously, he throws the fastball a lot against, right-handers,
Righties.
whereas he throws the changeup against lefties mostly. There was something brought up, and I'm curious to get your take on this, um, is that he averaged about 93 and a half miles an hour on his fastball, which is
Mhm.
fine.
It's average.
But
It's big
it's
league
average.
average. Yeah.
But as several people have pointed out, there is a thought that his average might tick up in the major leagues because in Japanese baseball, a lot of these guys are expected to throw 9 innings. These guys are expected to throw
Well, they
much
pitch once
longer
a week.
stretches.
Yeah.
They pitch once a week, right? They're going every 7 days, 7 or 8 days typically, and they're throwing a long stretch. Whereas
Yeah.
in Major League Baseball, you're like max effort as long as you can give us.
Right.
So there's some thought that he might be willing to, because like in his, there was a pit. I'm trying to remember the game they talked about, but he was touching 97 on his last strikeouts in the ninth inning. So he
Mhm.
clearly doesn't lose velocity as he goes
Yeah.
along. I'm wondering if you think the Astros will try to do what they do with a lot of pitchers, which is number one, ramp up their max effort, and number two, have him focus on solely his best pitches and stay away from the things he's not as good at.
Well, that's been one of the things that a lot of the teams across Major League Baseball have had success is, you know what? Let's find 3 or 4 really good pitches instead of having 7 or 8 that we can't control.
Right.
He has had control issues in the past. There is going to be a cultural change as far as baseball is concerned. Also, is he still going to pitch once a week? Probably. The Astros are talking
Mhm.
about, you remember it used to
The
be a
6
hot
man.
button term, the 6 man rotation, which everybody's
Ooh.
been on it forever. You
Right.
just didn't call it that.
No.
Um, so that's really once a week. The other part of it is he's not going to go out there and throw 140 pitches.
No.
He is got Major League Baseball, the never exceed number, the red line, if we were on attacking a car, is 120. You do not touch 120. So you look at the Astros. What do the Astros do? It's right around 100 pitches, you
I
know?
don't think anybody hit 120 last year for the Astros. I can't
Oh, no.
recall. I think
No, I
I
think
think
Hunter
maybe
went to 110 once or
I think that's
twice.
right. He went to
Yeah.
110 or maybe 111, I think was one,
Yeah,
but
somewhere in there.
nobody got close to
Nowhere
120. That's a
close.
crazy
And that
number.
because that's the never exceed number. And, he had multiple starts that he threw in the 140s. So it's going to have to be a little bit more efficient. Okay.
Mhm.
And what are the Astros going to be looking? Well, they're going to hope for 6 innings.
Right.
And to tell you the truth, with the pitch inefficiency that he was using in Japan, that's probably about right. That's
Yep.
probably about right. Now, he does throw a little bit different than a lot of Japanese players, a lot of Japanese pitchers.
He's kind of a
He
three-quarter angle, isn't
It's
he?
a
He's not.
low 3 quarters.
Yeah.
So, if you have, directly over the top, this would be high 3 quarters, this would be low 3 quarters, and this would be sidearm. So he's
Sidearm,
kinda
got it.
down here.
Hmm.
That's where the sweep on the slider comes from.
Right.
It comes from that lower arm angle, kinda cuts across. A lot of Major League Base pitchers are throwing the sweeper now. They've even,
Right.
coined it the sweeper,
Right.
which basically it's just a slider. Um, and the sweeper does have a tendency to be difficult to control sometimes because it's
Sure.
got so much horizontal break, not as much vertical break.
Right. I'm gonna be interested to see how that, like, the comparisons I've heard, Trey Savage is one that has come up
Which
multiple
I
times.
I I kinda get it. I
I
don't
do
get it
too. It's
because Trey Savage is, like, right over the top. He's, like,
He's a
this
well,
way.
that's the interesting thing. It's not the pitch style, it's the
Yeah,
types of pitches that he throws,
right,
like in the type
right.
of break that it has. He has that same slider that breaks kind of differently from most. So I've heard that one, and then I've heard a couple of people talk about a couple of, fastball throwers and stuff.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to watch. That when we look at the rotation, listen, we could also we should mention Mike Burrows who came over. Mike Burrows feels to me like one of those solid, almost reclamation-y type guys, where you like Charlie Morton, somebody like that comes over, the Astros can tweak him a little bit, help him be a, back end of the rotation type
Right.
of starter. He certainly eats innings. He doesn't get injured. That's a huge part for them.
Yeah.
Um, and then you've got Christian Javier, who will be back. And you've got Spencer Aggetti, who's already pitching in after its weird broken thumb situation last
Mhm.
year. Um, so you have a starting rotation of 5 guys. You'll probably have 6. If you look at their lineup too, they, earlier in this offseason, they signed Nate Pearson and Ryan Weiss, a
Yeah.
pair of guys who are, kind of coming from other leagues. Guys who, again, similar to kind of what the Astros have done in the past, Let's find some rotation depth. They still have, JP France and AJ Bloombaugh and a few other guys like that.
Hey,
Although,
this is the beauty of live podcasting. Can you give me just 1 second, please?
of course, I'll continue. Um, the thing about it is that Bluebaugh is probably going to go in the bullpen for the most part. Um, this is a guy that I think could thrive there, and I think the Astros think could thrive there. So we'll have to see when Mike returns from his quick trip out of the room. The Astros rotation is, to me, though, that is really, it's going to be a fascinating thing to watch this year because I don't really know uh, exactly how they're going to deal with. I it's the rotation I feel like is set, but now you have to wonder how are they going to handle like. How, all right, he's back.
Sorry about that. My dogs were
No
going
problem.
crazy.
I feel you. I've got two sleeping on my floor right now behind me. So what I was saying about Blue Ball is that Blue Ball is probably going to end up in the bullpen. The Astros, I think,
Right.
they feel pretty good about where he could be as like a middle reliever type guy. It does bring
Well,
up
I
the
think
question.
I think what they have to do is, and they're going to spring
Mhm.
training. The top of the rotation is pretty much set.
I think, yep,
Hunter is the dude, right?
right.
Um, but the back end of the rotation, there's going to be open competition,
Oh,
and
for sure.
one of the things, it's not going to just be how they pitch in in spring training. It's
Hmm.
going to be what is going to be the best way for this pitcher X. We'll use blue ball to help this team win.
Yeah.
And he has the ability to do both. Okay.
Right.
So I think with his arsenal, with his increased velocity over some of the other guys, I think you look at it and say, okay, he can be a starter, but he can also be a good reliever. So,
And that's a
you know,
huge thing for the team.
having that ability to do both, having that diversity,
Hmm.
I think in a way, if he wants to be a starter, doesn't help him.
Well, that's
Just
true.
because he has the ability to do both, and you got to remember, what is their job? Their job is to win baseball games.
Right. I think we see that with Ryan Weiss too. I think that's another guy that they think could be one of
I
those
think
times,
he's
splits time.
probably going to be one of the front runners for one of those back end
Yeah,
of the bullpen.
I think 5 or
Jason
6, yeah.
Alexander is another one, as well as he pitched
Right.
last year. His stuff
Another
doesn't really equate to the bullpen. It's not power stuff.
right,
It's more finesse with the breaking ball, the control of
right.
the breaking ball. So I think he probably, again, with as well as he pitched, I mean, he was a
Yeah.
huge part of the Astros rotation
Huge.
in the second half. I mean, if it wasn't for him, they're not anywhere close to being in the playoff run there at the end of
Right.
September. So I think those are probably the leading candidates, but you'll just have
Yeah.
to wait and see what happens in spring training.
And you also have to we haven't even mentioned Lance McCullers, right? Who is in the final year of his contract.
Yeah.
And so you have to really when you look at it, the Astros are kind of in a situation where they were last year. They
Hmm.
have probably about 7, 8 guys that are going to be vying for, 6 spots in the rotation plus maybe some split time between the bullpen. Um, and we're just going to have to see if how that shakes out and how the Astros view those guys. I mean, some of it, honestly, Mike, some of it's going to be like who can still go down, because
Yeah.
as well as I do, there's going to be guys on
Options.
this. They need guys with options. I mean, that's just they had to let go of some guys last year because they didn't have options left, and so that's going to be part of it. But here's the thing. This is what we haven't gotten on this yet. The truth is the Astros were still, despite all of their problems last year, a good pitching baseball team,
That
right?
was that was not their issue.
No, and the truth is that this year they probably project to be a pretty good pitching baseball team again. I think when you look at the pitchers and the everything else, their problem is hitting. And that has yet to go addressed. I mean, when they traded Mike Burrows, they did get rid of Jacob Melton, who was,
Yeah.
could have arguably been an heir apparent in center field. If you're going to move on from Jake Myers.
Okay, we're gonna have to pause a second again.
Oh
Sorry,
no, go
buddy.
ahead. No, go ahead. The dogs never relent. Mine are asleep, thankfully. They're just dead to the world. But that's something when Mike does step back, we will want to talk about. And that is we need to talk about their hitting. We still have a log jam in the infield. Um, We have serious question marks still in the outfield. We have to figure out what's going to happen with Jordan in terms of where he's going to play. We have to figure out where Jose Altuve is going to play. Is Isaac Paredes going to have a spot? Christian Walker was down last year despite hitting whatever it was, 25 home runs. There's a lot of that to discuss. Now, maybe the Astros were able to clear up some of that simply by, um, simply by just going, okay, well, uh, we made all our deals for pitching. Now we can start to look at because they really did. They only traded one player, I think, from the 40-man roster in Melton. Um, and they still had to make a corresponding move, which they released Caleb Ort. So it does make one wonder at this point, like, is there look at this, I switched it to the wrong side. That's funny. Um, it does make you wonder, like, how are they gonna manage this? Like, are they gonna manage it in such a way that, are they gonna have to make trades? I don't know. We're gonna have to see. And Mike Stanton is now back from he was back from managing the
Oh my
Hounds.
goodness.
I didn't even hear him, which is funny, but
I didn't
so
either. The phone call was my wife. She's
saying
sick
they were freaking.
upstairs.
Oh man. Yeah, I just got over it. My wife just got it, so I feel you. Well, so one of the things I was saying, Mike, is that we
Mhm,
haven't really delved into the hitting side. To me, there are sort of three major storylines going into this offseason with their lineup.
mhm.
One is backup catcher. It seems that we're going to lose out on our backup catcher, who's probably going to he might even get offered a starting gig. Um, so we're going to have to address that. That's probably a smaller issue. But the two big ones is, how do we deal with the log jam in the infield? And how do we deal with the minutes distribution for guys like Jordan Alvarez and really whatever rotation you're going to throw out in center and right field? If you
Right.
keep Jake Myers, then he's your center fielder. Fine.
Mhm.
You know, our right field last year was pretty good defensively, but boy, did he tail off at the end of the year offensively.
Sure.
And so you have to wonder, is Cam Smith, is he going to be really their everyday right fielder? Is that the deal? And then on the infield, you've got the Isaac Paredes, Christian Walker, Carlos Correa. We know Jeremy. The only thing we know is the left side of their infield is set. We know that Carlos Correa will play third. We know
Right.
Jeremy Pena will play second. We don't know yet who's going to play first because we don't know if Christian Walker's going to stay or Isaac Paredes is going to stay. We
Mhm.
don't know fully what's going to happen at second. You assume Jose Altuve will play there sometimes, but not all of the time. And we don't have Mauricio Dubon. We brought in another utility player who's less proven. And need I mention that there is a decent chance that Bryce Matthews comes up and is really good in spring training. Towards the end of last year,
Yeah.
he was quite good, and he
The
he
problem
could be
Bryce
challenging
has
for
are those options. You
right.
know
He does have options, and
we
that's the
talk
deal.
about this team, needing to upgrade offensively. We knew going into the season last year that even if everyone was healthy, this was a
Right.
very top-heavy lineup.
Yes.
Now, the first half of the season, it was the bottom half of the lineup. It were the
Yep.
also rans that were doing a lot of the heavy lifting. Jordan was out a lot. I mean, there
Yep.
was a lot of issues that they had offensively. But you're right. I mean, there is a big problem with just personnel that you have guys under contract. You've got guys playing, that can have the ability to play multiple positions, but they're usually better at one.
Mhm.
They would love to get Altuve, get a defensive upgrade at second base on a daily basis, but
Right.
you also know that Jordan is a better player when he plays in the field. He wants to be a full-time baseball player,
He's
not
not
just
gonna
a
be.
DH.
He's not gonna
So
be, but yeah, I get it.
so there are issues that if you want to upgrade, I understand, but there are logistical issues that they're
Well,
going to have to try and figure out.
I think they're gonna have to trade from the 40-man roster. I don't think they have a choice. If they're gonna make any moves, I don't think they're gonna sign anybody. I really don't. If they do, it's gonna be very small kind of
Yes,
stuff. But I think what they're gonna have to move players off the 40-man, and they're gonna
it's
have
the only
to
way to
make
do it
trade.
because they
It's
don't have a whole lot of top prospects either. That's kind of the
No.
nature of every organization
Yeah.
as they spend, year in and year out being a really good baseball playoff caliber baseball team. You make moves to bolster the big league staff, and so what happens there? Well, you
Mhm.
take away from the minor leagues, and
Yeah.
there's two ways for a minor league player to help the big league club. One is directly going up and play, and second is via the trade.
Right. And they've been hemorrhaging minor leaguers for,
Sure,
almost a decade now, just
that's
simply
right.
that's what happens when you're good. So they're gonna have to they will, interestingly enough, have a larger draft class this year. They have got some compensatory picks coming. They've got another pick that they got because of Hunter Brown's excellence.
Mhm.
They get an extra pick after the second round, I think it is for him. So their draft will be more expansive this year than it has been
And
in years
that's gonna
past, which
be
should be helpful.
one of the things that's gonna be fascinating to see, because this is why Dana Brown was brought in.
Yes,
His
exactly.
forte was not as a general manager, it was a minor league director. It was, minor league development. It was the draft. That's why he was brought in, was to try and bolster this minor league system to support your big league club.
Right, and the Astros are picking 17th in the draft this year, which is higher than they've been in
Sure.
years past. They were actually part of the, draft lottery this
Mhm.
year, which they had a shot at getting higher and didn't. So, yeah, I mean, that's where they're gonna I look, it's stupid to say it, but before last year, I was like, "I feel like this is gonna be a transition year for the Astros." Like,
In a way, it
and it
was.
was in a way,
Yeah,
it definitely was, right? I think this year might even be more so. It would not surprise me if this was a year where we say the Astros take a legitimate step backwards in order to, I mean, not necessarily they're going to tank and suddenly become a bad
right.
team. I think they're still going to be a good team. They have too many good players not to be. But will they challenge for the division? I don't know.
They may.
And
They may,
they
because
might.
what we've seen
Oh,
over the last 2 seasons is the team can pitch. Even
they
when
can
you
definitely
have guys
pitch.
that come up that weren't ready to be in the big leagues, Spencer Arrighetti is the top of that list.
Right.
Um, you know, you still figure it out. You figure out how to get a few guys out. You figure out how to keep the confidence. And then all of a sudden, what was it, 9 starts in, then Spencer started pitching like a big leaguer. He
Right.
started getting comfortable in his surroundings, getting comfortable in his own skin as a pitcher.
Right.
And the Astros, I think, over time have proven that they have that ability, kind of the old
No
Tampa
doubt.
Bay Rays deals,
Yeah.
where you get some obscure names, and then all of a sudden they're pitching lights out in the big leagues, and we've seen that from this team. So I think they're still going to be able to. They're still not in a great division.
No, well,
Okay,
that's the biggest thing. They could win
even
a
even
division
though
just because.
even though Seattle is going to be the team to beat in the West this year, they're the champions, but they
They
still
didn't
have
nes
their issues. The other teams in this division have their issues. So
Oh, yeah, Seattle
they'll
didn't necessarily get better this offseason,
no,
not so
no,
far.
and to tell you the truth, I don't think they were that much better last year. You
Mhm.
know, what have they done over the last several years? They've underachieved. They did not play up to their abilities. Last
Right.
year in the second half, they did,
Well,
and,
I'm
they
really
got
shocked.
hot when they needed to.
I'd be surprised if Cal Raleigh has another season like he did last year. Not
Oh,
to say
you
that he
can't
isn't
count
great, but
you can't count
I don't think you can count on that from a catcher,
no.
going forward. I just don't think that's the case. So they're gonna have to get more, so I but yeah, and then you've got the Angels who are the Angels and, perpetually in a spin cycle of awful. You've got the A's who can't, by the way, who can't secure the name Athletics in Las Vegas, which is fascinating to me, by the way, from
Hilarious.
a business standpoint where they can't secure the trademark. And so you've got other people out there selling Vegas athletics t-shirts,
Right,
which is
right. So I guess
incredible.
they're
Just
just
the
the A's, right?
Well, apparently they can't be anything in Vegas yet. Like they want to be the
Oh, well, yeah,
athletics
they're
because
still in Sacramento.
they're
Yeah.
still in Sacramento. But the deal, so if anybody hasn't read the story about this, the problem is they've tried to trademark the name Las Vegas Athletics, but the problem is the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office has rejected it, saying it's too generic a term, and there's been no history there to suggest that this term would be applied directly to the baseball team, right? So they said, which
Except
I,
that it's been the name of an organization for how long?
It has, but they're not asking for trademark of the word athletics. They're asking for trademark for the word Las Vegas athletics, which is a huge
Gotcha.
key. They can have Oakland athletics because Oakland has been the athletics forever, right? But they have
Interesting.
the argument from the patent office is you have not established yourself as being so legitimate to Las Vegas and having so much history and everything there that we can just give you the title because
Well, and you know what? They're not in Las Vegas yet. I
right,
mean, that might be the
exactly.
biggest thing is
And
once they
that's
can officially say, "Okay, we are moving to Las Vegas, the stadium is ready, we got the
right.
locker room, we're going." Okay, now maybe but
Well,
I can
they'll
understand
eventually
that.
I think
Yeah,
they'll eventually get their patent because then once they've established themselves a ball club there, then I think there will be no
right.
problems. It's just until they do. And so while that is happening, Las Vegas Athletics belongs to nobody. So
That's
like
hilarious.
there's a I think it's a bar or something that's making these Las Vegas Athletics t-shirts. And like, it's just brilliant. I mean, this is the
Hey,
kind of stuff that I
as
love.
long as somebody's capitalizing,
Right, and by the way, it couldn't happen to a more awful franchise. I mean, this really the A's
right,
just if anybody deserves to have to be punished like this, and the players don't, but the ownership
right,
absolutely does.
right.
So, but yeah, you've got the A's, you get the Angels. The Rangers are not gonna they made that bizarre deal to trade Marcus Simeon to the Mets for,
Mhm.
what's his name? The outfielder. Which is just a swapping $35 million salaries,
That was
really.
a salary dump. Yeah,
So you're right. I mean, we're in the AL West, and the AL West is what it is,
that's right.
right?
That's right.
It's just
So
it's just how it is, and so what are you gonna do? So they certainly have the potential, but I do think if I'm just a straight up fan, and I am to a certain degree, but if I'm just a straight up fan who watches the team, I would not be like getting my hopes up for big title runs this year. That would just be me. I would be wanting
well,
to see what the team is
this
going to do and adjust.
this fan base, us Astros
Mhm.
fans, we've been spoiled for so long.
Yes,
That,
we
the
have.
way it's been the last couple years where you're battling just to stay afloat, you're battling for the division, it goes down to the last week. That's kinda how it's supposed to be. The
Yeah.
Astros have won this division so many times with, weeks to spare, and,
Yes.
you knew at the end of July that they were gonna win. You just didn't know exactly when they were gonna win the
Right.
division. This is and you know what? This kinda makes it sweeter. So when it does happen, it's not the inevitable. When it does
Right.
happen, you know, it's more dramatic.
Well, what's the old axiom, like, "Don't cry because it's over, be happy because it happened." It's like,
Yeah.
I mean, it
And
there
once the
there
emotion comes out of it, maybe you can look at it that way.
it's so hard to deal with. I mean, listen, everybody wants, you want your team to win, you want them to be successful, and all that. And honestly, I'm not saying the Astros won't be, but it's a weird roster. It's just
Yeah.
by all accounts, it's a strange roster. It's a
Yeah.
roster that you kind of look at and you're like, it's hard to discern by looking at it exactly what it is and what it's going to be. And
Yeah.
and it probably isn't. I mean, it's obviously not finalized. We still have,
Sure.
you
Oh,
know,
yeah. I
I
mean,
mean,
there's
pitch.
lots of
Although
time left. Yeah.
pitchers and catchers report in 5 weeks, which is insane when you
But
think
the
about it.
free agent market is just now starting
Yes,
to get
it
moving
is.
as a
It's
whole.
it's hard for me to believe that like Kyle Tucker is sitting out there and people are saying, "You know what? Maybe Cody Bellinger has a better uh market than Kyle Tucker does." I read
Yeah.
that this morning. I'm like, "You
This might
kidding?"
this
Like,
might be a conversation for the next podcast, but
yeah.
it's crazy how kinda the whole free agent market exists for the position players, they're all so intertwined. They're all looking at they're all the same teams are looking at
Yeah.
them, even though they're not playing similar positions. I mean, it's
No.
pretty remarkable that the top of the free agent market is really, you know, what is the first domino going to be to
That's
fall?
it.
Yeah.
That's it. It does feel a little bit like, and frankly, in a lot of free agent, baseball not being exclusive to that, there is a lot of that waiting around until the one happens. And
Yeah.
then the floodgates burst open and everybody's like,
Right.
okay, now we got
Yeah.
to do what we do. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. Really appreciate it in this first podcast of 2026.
Yeah, and,
Um,
sorry for my, my missing minutes there.
And Mike has to take care
It's
of the dogs, man. Listen,
the beauty of live podcasting.
that's and the beauty of pet ownership. That is how it goes. They're just
Pet
like your
ownership,
kids.
somebody's at the door,
Ex
haven't had a
Oh.
word around, this whole house in the last couple hours, and then, of course, we get on here and,
And the listen,
the inevitable.
at my house in the late afternoon, it may as well be a kennel in my house in terms of the way it sounds, with dogs being walked by and the mail guy coming. It's like,
Right,
forget it. And so, like, I have to threaten them to close the blinds. That's what
right.
I'm like, close the blinds. Don't make me close the blinds. All right. Thanks, everybody. We will
Okay.
see you next time. Talk to you soon. Go Astros.